Hello and welcome back to the channel. The Titanic sinking in 1912 still captures our hearts. The tragedy, the heroism, the untold stories. But what if we could see those survivors again? Thanks to AI restoration, we've brought 20 survivors' faces back to life. People who endured the unthinkable and lived to tell the tale. These images are windows into lives forever shaped by that fateful night. Let us know in the comments which survivor's face and story moved you most. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss a journey into history. Let's begin. 1. Margaret Molly Brown. Known famously as the unsinkable Molly Brown, Margaret Brown was much more than just a name in Titanic folklore. She was a symbol of unshakable resolve. Born to modest beginnings, Molly rose through the social ranks, but it was her actions during the Titanic disaster that defined her legacy. When panic swept the decks after the iceberg struck, she became a voice of strength, urging order, assisting crew, and even taking command in the lifeboat. With the help of AI restoration, her image today is powerfully vivid. Sharp, intelligent eyes, a firm jawline, and an unmistakable aura of defiance. She refused to be a passive victim and later became a prominent advocate for Titanic survivors, ensuring their stories were never forgotten. Two. Eva Hart. Eva Hart was just 7 years old when the Titanic sank. A child full of wonder, her world was shaken the night the great ship met its fate. She lost her father in the disaster, a memory that haunted her for the rest of her life. AI has brought back her youthful face, large, serious eyes framed by soft features, the kind of expression shaped by early trauma. Despite the emotional scars, Eva grew up to become one of the most outspoken Titanic survivors. Her interviews and public appearances kept the legacy of the Titanic alive for new generations. In her eyes, we see the contrast of innocence and deep strength, a child who survived the unimaginable and spent her life making sure it was never forgotten. Three. J. Bruce Ismay. J. Bruce Ismay was the chairman of the White Star Line, the very company that built the Titanic. When he stepped into a lifeboat while others perished, he became one of the most controversial figures of the tragedy. The AI-enhanced image of Ismay reveals a man caught in a storm far bigger than the sea, a face of unease, self-reflection, and perhaps regret. Though he survived physically, his reputation never recovered. He lived the rest of his life in quiet exile, haunted by whispers of cowardice. In those AI-restored eyes, we see a man weighed down by a single decision, a legacy written not by intention, but by perception. Four. Michel Navratil Jr. Michel Navratil Jr. was only a toddler when he boarded the Titanic under unusual and heartbreaking circumstances. Taken by his father without the mother's consent, Michel and his brother were found in a lifeboat after the sinking, alone and unidentified. The media later dubbed them the Titanic Orphans. AI brings his young face to life with haunting clarity, his wide eyes filled with fear and confusion, innocence framed by tragedy. Reunited with his mother weeks later, Michel's story became one of mystery, rediscovery, and survival. It remains a poignant reminder that even in the chaos, miracles can emerge from sorrow. Five. Lawrence Beesley. A first-class passenger and schoolteacher, Lawrence Beesley survived the sinking and went on to become one of its most articulate chroniclers. His book, The Loss of the Titanic, remains a foundational piece in understanding the event from a passenger's perspective. The AI-enhanced version of Beesley's face is scholarly and composed, his glasses resting delicately on a furrowed brow, his lips pressed into thoughtful reflection. His calm demeanor in recounting the trauma stands as a testament to the emotional discipline of the era. Yet in his expression, there's a visible trace of the night's horror, tucked beneath layers of intellect and composure. Six. Edith Brown. Edith Brown was traveling back from India with her mother when the Titanic began to sink. In one of the most emotional accounts, Edith's mother refused to leave without her daughter. That act of fierce maternal love saved them both. The AI-rendered image of Edith captures this bond, her youthful features radiating both vulnerability and strength. Her eyes reflect not only the fear of that night, but the unspoken courage it took to survive it. Edith lived a long life, but she never forgot her journey on the Titanic. Her story is one of resilience, love, and survival against the odds. Seven. Jack Thayer. At only 17, Jack Thayer's survival was nothing short of miraculous. After the ship split in two, he plunged into the icy Atlantic and managed to reach an overturned lifeboat, clinging to life in the darkness. The AI restoration of Jack's face reveals a boy on the cusp of manhood, eyes shadowed by the memory of loss, mouth set in quiet defiance. Though he rarely spoke about the event for much of his life, when he finally did, his account was detailed, harrowing, and deeply human. His story speaks to the physical and emotional toll survival can take, even decades later. Eight. Edith Russell. Edith Russell, a fashion writer and journalist, brought a touch of elegance even to a tragedy. She famously escaped the ship carrying her musical toy pig, a gift that later became a Titanic artifact. AI brings back her refined features, arched brows, graceful lips, and a face that radiated poise even in crisis. After the tragedy, Edith devoted herself to preserving the Titanic's story, contributing interviews, artifacts, and perspective. She believed fashion and tragedy were both reflections of society, and she embodied both with grace. Nine. Charlotte Collyer. Charlotte Collyer was a second-class passenger and one of the few who managed to get into lifeboat number 4. Traveling with her daughter, Charlotte kept a level head during the chaos, soothing others and maintaining calm. The AI restoration of her face highlights a composed woman, soft but resolute, the kind of quiet strength that history often overlooks. Though her life was marked by hardship following the disaster, Charlotte's bravery on that cold night has earned her place in the tapestry of Titanic heroism. Ten. Harold Bride. Harold Bride was the junior wireless operator aboard the Titanic and one of its unsung heroes. He stayed at his post, sending distress calls long after the ship had begun to tilt. AI has given us a haunting view of his young face, eyes worn with fatigue, jaw clenched with duty. Harold was injured during the sinking, his feet crushed, but he survived and continued to assist even after rescue. His dedication helped save hundreds of lives, and his story later influenced the restructuring of maritime emergency communication. In his image, we see courage under pressure, raw and real. "11. Millvina Dean. Millvina Dean was the youngest passenger aboard the Titanic, just 9 weeks old when the ship went down. She had no memory of the sinking, but her life was forever shaped by it. AI technology restores the image of her as a baby wrapped in blankets, unaware of the unfolding tragedy. Later in life, she became the last living survivor of the disaster, carrying the torch of Titanic remembrance with quiet dignity. Her face, even in old age, retained a gentleness, a living bridge between the 20th century and one of its most defining events. "12. Charles Lightoller, second officer. Charles Lightoller was the highest-ranking crew member to survive the Titanic. A career sailor, he showed unwavering bravery during the sinking, helping to load lifeboats, giving up his own chance of escape, and eventually being pulled from the freezing water. AI brings back his commanding features: a firm jaw, sharp navel eyes, and the weathered face of a man built for storms. After the disaster, he rarely spoke of the emotional toll, but his actions spoke louder, later aiding in the Dunkirk evacuation during World War II. Lightoller remains one of Titanic's unsung heroes. "13. Lucy Duff-Gordon, fashion designer and aristocrat. Lucy Duff-Gordon escaped the Titanic aboard a nearly empty lifeboat, a decision that drew public outrage. The AI restoration captures her elegance, but also a weariness in her expression, a reminder of how survival sometimes carried social consequences. Criticized for not returning to rescue others, her story reveals the difficult moral terrain passengers navigated. Her legacy is still debated, but one thing is clear: she faced a tragedy that tested both class and conscience. "14. Elsie Bowerman. A suffragette and social activist, Elsie Bowerman was returning from a trip to the US when the Titanic struck the iceberg. She survived and went on to live an extraordinary life, serving in WWI and becoming a barrister in the UK. The AI-enhanced version of her face reveals a woman of clarity and purpose, intelligent eyes and determined poise. The Titanic was only the beginning of her journey. For Elsie, survival meant more than escaping death. It meant reshaping her world. "15. Dorothy Gibson. Dorothy Gibson was not only a Titanic survivor, She was a film star who reenacted the sinking in the very first Titanic movie, Saved from the Titanic, released just weeks after the tragedy. Her AI-restored image glows with early Hollywood charm, soft curls, expressive eyes, and a performance that blurred the line between acting and personal trauma. Though her later years were marked by quiet retreat, Dorothy's unique place in Titanic lore remains, an artist who turned survival into storytelling. "16. Hugh Woolner. Hugh Woolner, a first-class passenger, helped load lifeboats and fought off panicked men trying to force their way in. AI reconstruction reveals a calm, confident figure, tall and composed, with the steady gaze of someone who acted decisively under pressure. Woolner was among those who quietly led with honor, never seeking fame or recognition. His story serves as a powerful example of how courage often hides in plain sight. "17. Madeleine Astor. Madeleine Astor, the pregnant young wife of millionaire John Jacob Astor, survived while her husband did not. AI has brought her face back to vivid life, youthful, elegant, but marked by a deep sorrow that never quite left her. Her story is one of love cut short and quiet survival. Left a widow at just 19, Madeleine's later life was shaped by inheritance, scandal, and an effort to live in the shadow of tragedy with grace and poise. "18. Archibald Gracie IV. Colonel Archibald Gracie clung to the overturned collapsible lifeboat after helping women and children board lifeboats. He survived the freezing waters, but never fully recovered from the physical and emotional trauma. AI restores his stern military features, eyes set deep with resolve, lips drawn in stoic focus. Gracie later authored a detailed account of the sinking, providing one of the most valuable first-hand testimonies. He died just months after the disaster, his health failing, but his legacy preserved in writing. "19. Annie Funk. A missionary from Pennsylvania, Annie Funk had dedicated her life to education in India and was returning home to see her sick mother. She perished in the disaster, but her legacy lives on. The AI-enhanced image of Annie shows a kind, modest face, radiating purpose, humility, and grace. Though she didn't survive, accounts suggest she gave up her lifeboat seat to another passenger. Her name is now etched in stone at memorials and in the hearts of those who admire selflessness. 20. George Rheims. A French wine merchant and first-class passenger, George Rheims survived by jumping into the sea and swimming to a lifeboat. AI brings his refined European features back to focus. His sharp cheekbones and observant eyes tell of a man who witnessed horror yet acted quickly. Unlike others, Rheims kept his story private for years, only revealing it late in life. His survival, like many, was not without emotional scars, but it offers yet another human window into the night the Titanic slipped beneath the waves. "20 faces, 20 stories, each one a fragment of the Titanic's vast and tragic mosaic. Through AI, we're not just restoring old photographs, we're restoring history's humanity. These are no longer just names on a passenger list, they're people, survivors, witnesses, heroes. Their stories remind us that history breathes through the people who lived it. Which survivor's story moved you the most? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss the next resurrection. Until next time, stay curious and stay human.